Good morning and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. There's a small episode in a scene in the movie Forrest Gump that I always watch for. Probably most of us have seen this movie, and we know that Forrest is a little developmentally slow, and he stares in childlike wonder as amazing event after amazing event happen in and around him. Finally, toward the end of the movie, this man-child is reunited with Jenny, his lifelong friend whom he loves dearly. When he shows up at her apartment, he presents her with a box of chocolates that he had gotten for her. As she takes it, Forrest admits to her, "I ate some." I think that small scene is so reflective of Forrest's character. He's an adult by age. He's a child by nature. And eating some of the chocolates is just what a child would do. Perhaps eating some of the chocolates is what we do too. And perhaps that's what a woman in the Bible named Hannah helps us see. Hannah was married to a man named Elkanah, and I want to remind you that in those days a woman found her purpose in life by having children. Yes, nowadays women are a lot more than that, and we know that if someone can't have children, it might be the man's fault as much as the woman's. However, in those days, all the blame would be on the woman, and Hannah had been unable to conceive a child. To her, that meant she was looked down on by all the other women. It meant she couldn't be who she wanted to be, who she understood she was supposed to be. She couldn't fulfill her purpose or find meaning in her life. So she prayed to God. She prayed for a child. This week we are looking at surprising stories of gratitude in the Bible, and Hannah's story has much to say to us about gratitude in this Thanksgiving holiday week. So let's get back to the story. Hannah and her husband had gone to the worship center at Shiloh, and there Hannah earnestly prayed to God for a child. She prayed so deeply that even though her lips moved, no sound came out, and the priest thought she was drunk. After she explained what she was praying about and how deeply she felt, the priest joined his prayers with hers. And soon Hannah conceived a child. But before we get to that, we need to look carefully at what Hannah prayed. She prayed that if God would give her a male child, then Hannah would dedicate the child to God for the rest of his life. In other words, Hannah vowed that if she had a male child, then Hannah would give that child back to God. Well, when the child was born, they named him Samuel, and when Samuel was weaned, probably about age 3 or so, they brought him back to Shiloh and left him with the priest there to be raised in God's house. Now, usually when I tell this story, I make sure to say not to bring your 3-year-old children and leave them here with me. But beyond that, perhaps we should really take notice of what Hannah did. She was grateful for the gift of God to her, to be sure, but she was more focused on the giver than the gift. That's important. We tend to be so thankful for God's blessings to us and count the things God has given or done for us. Well, Hannah knew those things too, but instead of focusing on the gift, she oriented herself on the giver of the gift. She gave Samuel back in gratitude for God's blessing to her. And that's where those chocolates and Forrest Gump come back in. You see, sometimes when God has blessed us abundantly, we don't do what Hannah did. We shortchange God and keep some of the chocolates for ourselves. We don't respond to God by giving our all, and instead fill our own hungers. I remember many years ago when Jeremy was a child, as we neared Christmas, he said to me, "Daddy, I know what Jesus wants for his birthday." I began to think of all the things we could give to Jesus at Christmas, but Jeremy had his own answer. He said, "Jesus wants people." That's right. and Hannah gave herself along with Samuel, focused not on the gift of God, but on God the giver. Perhaps we could shape our Thanksgiving that way. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.